Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NCL Live. I'm your host for this evening, Mistress Venom, and with me on my left, I've got Wolfshirtz, and on my right, I've got Franz from Cyber Skyline.
Hello. I need a fancy handle. I need to choose one.
I mean, we can make you one, but I make no promises.
That's dangerous. We'll think about it later.
All right, so this evening we're going to go over registration. We're going to do a quick overview of the categories, and first and most importantly, we're going to go with some updates for fall of 2021.
All right. So, Meredith, can you bring up the screen share, and I'll give everyone the down low on what's going on with this new season. So, for all of you NCL veterans out there, you're probably familiar with our general process for the games. But we're making a pretty big change this season with specifically preseason. So for preseason, typically it's used as the mechanism for doing bracketing. And bracketing is how we've been doing different divisions so that beginners can be compared against beginners and more advanced players can be compared against more advanced players. But we noticed that a lot of people were using the actual placement in preseason brackets as like as like a status symbol, and we found that a lot of people were getting disappointed when they didn't make it into gold, and getting into gold was very, very difficult. And so we made the decision to actually change that whole thing up, and we're actually getting rid of the bracketing system because we felt that it was actually like being kind of unfair to beginners. And that's not our intention. You shouldn't feel bad if you were in bronze. You shouldn't feel bad because you're a beginner. Everyone starts as a beginner. And we didn't like the hierarchy that was creating, trying to like kind of place people before they even experience the game. So we're doing away with bracketing, and instead we're introducing this new system of medals. And so in the old system, with preseason, you would be put into basically gold, silver, and bronze. Gold being kind of more advanced, silver being more intermediate, and bronze being more beginner. We're not getting rid of those terms, but instead we're going to make those awards that you get after the game rather than using those to describe your placement before the game even starts. And so if anyone's familiar at all with like League of Legends or a lot of those like esports like rankings, it's like a very similar concept. We're actually going to be adding a couple of new tiers. And so we're going to have diamond, platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. And each one of those tiers is going to represent 20% of the population. And so diamond is going to be the top 20%, platinum is going to be the next 20%, and so forth. And within each one of those different medals, there will be 4 tiers, with 4 being the lowest and 1 being the highest. And because each division is going to be 20% of the total population. If we split each one of those into 4, then each one of those tiers is going to be 5% of the population. So this means that Diamond 1 will be the top 5% of the population. Diamond 4 is going to be between the 80th and the 85th percentile. And if you like on the other end, if you're in bronze, 4 will be 0 to the 5th percentile, and then bronze 1 will be the 15th to the 20th percentile. So it's going to have a lot more granularity. We really want people to actually be able to see a lot of growth in between seasons, and so no longer is it going to be like a huge grind to get into silver, because in the old system, bronze is 50% of the entire population. So now you can see a lot more incremental progress, especially if you're a beginner. Like, it's fine to be a beginner. I don't want people feeling bad that they are a beginner. And so you can come in as a beginner, you can be like 10th percentile, and then next season you can work your way up to like 20th and 30th percentile. In the old system, you wouldn't actually be able to see that movement if that was in the preseason. But now in the individual game, if you're actually making jumps of 5% of the population, you will actually be able to see that. So we're excited to give people a lot more flexibility in the way that they compare themselves. And a side effect of this is that because preseason is no longer being used for bracketing, preseason will now be optional. It's going to be the same way that we did preseason. It's just not going to be required anymore. So if you are a veteran and you don't feel the need to do preseason, it's totally optional. You can choose to skip it. If you're a beginner and you completely forgot about preseason, you can still qualify for a ranked game in the individual game. But it's still an opportunity to practice. So we still recommend that people participate in preseason, but it's no longer a thing that you have to do. And that additional flexibility should mean more people being ranked in the individual game. So we're excited for having like a larger ranked pool of players in the individual game. And we hope that the increased flexibility makes it easier for people to participate in the NCL season. So those are the kind of the big updates into how we're doing things. But I'll pass it back now to Meredith to go over, like, generally, if you're new, like, how does the NCL season work? What are the different components now that we got all the updates out of the way?
Sure. So for those of you, and I did see a question come from the chat saying, this is my first time doing anything NCL related. Is this the right place to be? Yes, it certainly is. Welcome. I'm going to throw the link to our main homepage in chat in a moment and bring it up on screen. Maybe. Yes, there we go. So this is nationalcyberleague.org. This is our landing page. Everything you need to know about NCL, the organization, lands here. This is the premier offensive and defensive cybersecurity competitions. We are broken down into 9 categories, which I will get to a little bit later. But those 9 categories are OSINT, cryptography. I'm going to cheat here. Password cracking, log analysis, network traffic analysis, forensics, web application exploitation, scanning, my personal favorite, and enumeration and exploitation. And those 9 categories all have challenges that are hosted on the wonderful Cyber Skyline platform that allow you to learn the various cybersecurity skills you need for a plethora of different professional positions out in the workforce. And you can test your skills safely in an environment where you are both doing so legally and authorized, as well as having the ability to make mistakes and learn what tools to use if you've never used a tool before. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to stop sharing for one moment, maybe, and we can go through all of the categories. So, Tristan, if you want to hop back and forth, do you want to start with OSINT?
I can.
Awesome.
So to get the ball rolling, the first category that you're generally going to see is OSINT. OSINT stands for Open Source Intelligence, and it's essentially structured research, going through figuring out information and then answering questions based on it. Also, getting data out of things you're given. I think that's a good, like, quick.
Yeah. Cryptography is essentially the encoding or decoding of hidden messages. The most common cryptographic cipher that you'll ever hear about is the Caesar cipher. That's by default just a rotation of 13 shifts, so that instead of the alphabet beginning at A, it begins at J, and your message looks a little bit like gobbledygook until you reverse the Caesar cipher. Cryptography plays a part in many different areas of cybersecurity. So learning the basics, learning the different number bases is very important to have as a basis, both from a networking side, a non-technical side, and, well, any other positions as well, truly. All right, next is password cracking.
Password cracking it's very similar to cryptography, except it sort of takes the instead of trying to pick the lock, it just smashes the door open approach, where you're just going to go through and you're going to be given some hashes and you have to get the plain text password for them.
Log analysis is next. That's one of my personal secondary favorites. That is essentially looking at a log file from a forensic standpoint. Most log files aren't generated live, and you get to look back through and see, okay, what happened and why, and you can see the full trail of activity. When you are out in the workforce, that is commonly referred to as a security operations job. And basically your job is to look at logs all day and verify whether or not something was malicious. And I had a lot of fun doing that for 2 years. Next is network traffic analysis.
Network traffic analysis is taking captures of data that are flowing across the network, and similar to log analysis, figuring out what exactly happened on the network, trying to drill down and get data, and also verify that if something is malicious or not, or sometimes trying to just figure out how a certain protocol works. The next category is forensics.
Yes. So forensics is essentially a combination of log analysis, a malware analysis of sorts, and just looking at the forensic image of a computer, which is what is created when an incident has occurred, especially something that is tied to legal reasons. And you will be able to use different tools to figure out what happened on the system, who made any changes, if there was an issue. I'm sorry, my brain is going a little bit blank right now. It's been a long day. But if there were, say, somebody stealing bits of data or somebody taking a piece of software that they shouldn't have off the machine, a forensic image will allow you to basically reverse engineer what happened, similar to log analysis, just of the entire computer and not just the log files. Next is web app exploitation.
Web app exploitation, sort of like one of my 50-50 favorites, is all about taking advantage of mishaps in programming in web applications or misconfigurations to get them to do something they were not originally intended to do. You're generally given websites, and then you have to figure out a way to break them. And then next up is scanning.
Scanning, or as I like to call it, the pen test plus. The most important piece of pen test software that you will have is your scanning tool. That will be your base for everything, especially when you don't know where to go or what to do. And the scanning category will allow you to essentially scan a website or an IP address and start to look for either vulnerabilities, services that are running. An example of a service is a website running on their DNS, similar things to that, and basically poke at it to see, okay, what is this? What's here? What's running on it? And okay, now I've got a little bit of information. How can I use this to my advantage? Is this vulnerable? Is it just insecure? Well, same thing, but is it out of date? And that is what scanning will help you get. And then it gives you a nice baseline to do whatever further steps you need to do. Then last but not least is enumeration and exploitation.
Yes, one of my favorites as well. It's about taking specifically programs and figuring out how they work and tinkering with them. This can be anything from, and the easier ones, it's generally we're giving you some source code to look at and you have to figure out what it will do. Into the harder ones where we give you a compiled binary and you have to figure out what it means and take it apart. And that's all of the different categories that we have.
And all of those wonderful categories, unless I am certifiably insane, are available in the gym. So you can get a head start now and register for the fall season and start to play around in those categories before the games begin. Or Franz, am I crazy?
No, you're correct. We even have an extra one in there because we used to have wireless access exploitation as a separate category. So that's like an extra 10th category in the gym right now. Currently, all of those like web or all the Wi-Fi cracking challenges in the individual game and the team game, they will be located in network traffic analysis, but they're a separate category in the gym, so you can practice those as well.
Nice. Those are my third favorite, or they would be my primary favorite if I still got to do that on a daily basis. So that being said, sorry.
I was going to say, we actually, earlier today, we did a crowdcast on how to set up your own Wi-Fi lab. So if you want to go check that out, you can go back and look at our past webinars. But yeah, we actually have like I still have it with me. Still have the hardware for cracking an actual Wi-Fi network in person, so you can set up one with your own home network if you want to as well.
Here we go. I've thrown the link to the previous one in the chat. If you hadn't registered, that will force you to re-register. But other than that, you can just watch the replay. So that being said, the gym is already open, as it opened on August 23rd. It'll be open until December 17th. So for those of you who are in college, traditionally about a week after finals ends, you'll still have access to the gym. And then for those of you in high school, that's probably right before your last week before winter break. So that being said, registration season is now, and registration is open till August 8th for regular registration. The late registration dates, if you wait or do me and basically wait until the very last minute each time, are open from October 9th through the 12th. You do have until 11:59 p.m. Eastern. After that, too late, and then you'll have to wait for spring season. But that being said, I can walk everybody through registration now. Maybe. All right, here we go. So the first thing that you're going to do is sign into your Cyber Skyline account if you already have one. Otherwise, you're going to go ahead and create an account. Since I already have an account, I'm going to sign in. Maybe. Yep. Oh, and you've made an updated login screen.
Oh yes, we now have a fancy animation when you log in.
I like the animation. And actually, for entertainment's sake, because, well, my account already exists, I'm going to go ahead and create an account. So my name is Meredith. That's my email address. And this is an example of a secure website, I think. Yep. Thank you, Franz, for not allowing copy and paste between the password fields.
We don't. That's news to me. I'll need to take a look into that.
Oh no, that's good. That's usually my favorite way of getting around something.
Oh, preventing the okay, but we support paste in there, right? I think.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and confirm my email address on my wonderful little device here. Maybe.
Yeah, I see Andrew in the chat here saying restricting copy and paste makes it harder to use password manager. I agree with you. I think what Meredith was talking about, you can't copy the previous field and paste it into the second field, but you can paste into both boxes. So if you use a password manager, you should be able to paste into both.
In theory, you should never be able to copy out of the previous field, because copy the value that's in the previous field. It should be encrypted as while typing as soon as you click out of it. But that being said, there are a lot of places that don't do that, like Facebook. It's a fun time. That being said, I am a student player. And I need to purchase my own game code. For those of you doing the bulk registration through your school, your coach will give you a game code. That means you aren't paying out of your own pocket, or you paid an alternate way through your coach. But for most of us, we just need to purchase our own. This is the amount. I discovered the floor. So
if you don't, so to not have to put your credit card on screen, refresh the page and choose the other option. And all that's going to do is it's just going to skip the purchase step.
Okay.
Yes.
Shout out to Franz. Today I learned.
Yeah. So the first option is if you're going to pay by yourself, pay for your own registration. We know in a lot of circumstances your school might pay for you. If your school is paying for you, you need to get a game code from your coach and then choose that second option that says you have a game code from your coach. Then you fill out your demographic information here. And then after you fill out your demographic information, you will submit the code. And the code will act as it act in lieu of payment. Tristan, are there any cool tips and tricks you want to show? Because I know you worked on this registration page recently.
I definitely do. So for the veteran players, you will notice that some of your information is now going to autocomplete. We did that to make sure that registration goes a bit easier. Also, we now have an option that if you opt into it, we will take your phone number and we will be sending out text reminders about when the games are upcoming.
And that's just one text reminder per game. So you're not going to get spammed with texts. There's literally 2 of them that will go out. Meredith, are you having an issue with the age here?
No. Maybe.
Your number seems a little high.
But will it work?
No, it won't. I think it has to be under 99.
All right. Fine. I have something around there. So you do actually need to fill out these age demographic, or not the age demographic, but all of the demographics. They are important. As you can see, I attended Baldwin Wallace, which is in Berea, Ohio. And these do help us get a good base of where our players are coming from, just so we can see. And then they also help with the power rankings. You do need to attach yourself to a school to be eligible to play NCL. If your school is not listed in here, please let us know, but I believe all schools should be in there.
Yeah, unless you're a very new institution, all 4-year universities will show up there. If you are in a high school, we recently support, like this year, this season actually, we are putting together a high school power ranking that will require your coach at your school to submit correct information. Meredith, I think that just has to be a point in the future. Yeah.
Yep.
And so you put down your normal high school. It won't autocomplete because the reason why it doesn't autocomplete is that there's no single unified database of all high schools in the U.S. There is one for colleges, which is why we actually have to have this coach system for the power rankings. But if you're in a 4-year school and it's not very, very recent, you should be able to have it autocomplete. But if it doesn't autocomplete, you can just leave it as is and keep moving. And I'm actually going to post the link to the power ranking. So for those of you who are not familiar, we put out a list of the top schools from every NCL season. And there are 3 components to the score. The first is the team rank, the second is the individual rank, and then the third is the participation rank. Those are basically in descending order of importance in the score. And so we primarily focus on the team rank, which is the performance of the top team from your school. Individual rank is the top individual from your school. And then participation rank, what we do is we sum up we assign a value depending on what range of scores each individual got, and then we add them all together. And so this means that if you have a lot of people in your program, you will get more points. But at the same time, if you have a lot of people in your program that aren't doing well, it's not very many points versus another school which might have fewer players, but they have higher averages. And so you cannot harm your school by participating in NCL if you're a beginner. You can only help your school because this is an additive score. So even beginners will contribute to their school's power ranking. So don't be afraid of participating in an NCL. Even if you're a beginner, you will still help your school on the power ranking. Meredith, I see you're getting to the end of the demographics here. You are muted.
Thank you. Yes, I am. I am getting to the bottom of the demographics here. There are two very important things that you must agree to. One is to follow the NCL competition rules. I am going to send that link in the chat as well. These are very important to know. A lot of these rules also help you in acting ethically once you enter the cybersecurity workforce. These are very important. You do have to agree to the honor pledge. And then as well, schools may choose to hold you to their honor council or their honor code as well. So you do have to acknowledge that you understand that that is something that is taken into effect if you are caught cheating in the NCL games. And then, of course, the opt-in for text messaging.
Also, a quick add-on here. It's not just colleges, not just universities, like four-year universities that are in power rankings. 2-year colleges are also in the power rankings. And the new this season is high schools.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and click submit. And then here is where you would enter in your game code. And then followed by that, you can create your display name for the leaderboard. And then you would click redeem game code if you had a game code.
And this ties into a question that I'm seeing right now. Someone's asking what they should put in the individual game code redemption. So if you are seeing that, it means that you chose that second option, saying that you got a game code from your faculty member. You need from your faculty coach. You need to submit that code that they got for you. So they made a purchase. You have the code, and you submit it there, and that code is used in place of payment. If you have a faculty member, if you aren't getting a registration from your coach, you need to go back to start registration all over again. And don't worry, if you filled out your demographic, it will show up again. But that's just to force you to get back to the page where you make your payment. At that point in time, you can make a payment with your credit card, and then the place where the game code should be will be auto-completed once you make a purchase there.
All right. So that's about it for registration. I do highly advise doing it sooner rather than later. That gives you additional time in the gym. That's more bang for your buck. And then, of course, as the gym is open after the season ends, you do have that nice extra week to finish that out.
It's more than a week. It actually goes all the way to mid-December. So you actually have close, I think it's over a month, actually.
Yeah, you're correct. Over a month.
Yeah.
So nationalcyberleague.org/competition is where the dates always are if you ever forget. It's a very handy, quick page there. And I will stop sharing again. And it looks like we are running a little bit ahead of schedule. So that being said, we can go through some of the questions that we've gotten. The first question, Franz, I believe you may want to take this, is are we allowed to stream the individual competition on Twitch?
No, you are not. So this is it's a competition, and so we want to make sure that it's fair for everyone, especially because two things that we're really producing out of the NCL games. One is those individual scouting reports. So for those of you who are not familiar, the scouting report highlights your individual strengths and weaknesses, and a lot of people use those scouting reports for employment purposes. And so because they show off your strengths and weaknesses, if you're applying for a job and you don't have a lot of job experience, the scouting report is actually a good substitute for that job experience. And so we need to make sure that we keep things fair. If people are streaming like how they're solving things on Twitch, then it's not really a competitive event anymore. And so it devalues the value of the scouting report. So we will allow discussion of the games after the competition in our Slack channel. And another caveat to that is that we don't want people posting answers because these questions might crop up again in the future, and we also want to make sure that we're actually helping people learn. So just posting the answer doesn't help people learn. So we allow discussion of like tools and general, like, how do I go about doing this, the methodology, but not the actual answer, because we want to make sure that people who are reading that will actually have to go in and learn how to do these different things rather than just get the answer and never learn it. It's if it's something where you want to have some record of your process to share with your club or for your own purposes, and the video that you are making is going to be off the internet, it's private to you, that's fine. We encourage individuals to document everything that they're doing for their own personal purposes, and we also encourage clubs or schools, classes, to have all those materials and resources to help new players learn. But those resources need to be kept internal to the group and not shared online. So if you want to do recording and then do a review of that recording after the game with your club, that is perfectly fine. But you definitely can't do it during the game, because that would make an unfair advantage for your group. And you definitely can't do it online, because that would really harm the integrity of the competition.
Thank you very much. All right, next question. Since brackets are gone and preseason no longer has any real meaning, are we allowed to use it as more collaborative practice, or is it still going to be strictly individual?
That is a good question. I think for right now, we're going to leave it as strictly individual, because we want to make sure that we're getting people used to the experience that they will get in the individual game, and part of that is the individual working together. Although, like we do with the individual game and the team game, after the game is over, we allow people to collaborate and discuss how do you go about solving these different challenges. If that is something that you all are eager to see that become more collaborative, we'll add that as a survey question, because I would be curious to see if maybe we should turn that more into a collaborative practice. But at this point in time, it is going to be kept strictly individual, just so that we get people used to it. But if we see a lot of people wanting it to be a little bit more collaborative, then we might change that in the future. But this season, it's strictly individual.
All right, thank you very much. The next question is from Garrett, and Garrett asks, should I focus on one specific category or study all of them for the competition?
I'll field that one. So the answer for that is yes and no. It's completely up to you. It depends on it really is what you're trying to get out of the game. If you want to just focus on getting really good at one particular category, by all means, you can do that. If you want to be competitive and you're really good at something, you can just focus on that one thing to start with. Those are completely valid options. But also, if you're newer and you just kind of want to go ahead and take a sample of each category, that's also a very good idea. You really just need to ask yourself what you want to get out of the competition, and kind of do your own self-evaluation of what you think is going to be best for you.
I'd agree, and I'm a strong fan as well of the going broad, just to get yourself a taste of everything, and then maybe making a decision on, okay, this is what I want to focus on this season. You do have 8 seasons if you're beginning as a freshman in university, or even more if you're starting as a high school student. So that being said, you can always spend one season focusing on one specific category, but from a competitive standpoint, it is best to do your best to perform in all of the categories. All right, next question. Am I allowed to continue competing after I graduate from my university in the upcoming years? Franz, would you like to field that?
Yes, so we have been allowing people to participate in NCL up to 1 year after they've graduated. if you're still looking for a job, because we know the value of the scouting report is to help you get that job. And so if you're still looking for a job after you've completed your program, you've got 1 year. But like after you've gotten a job, or once that 1 year has passed, then you can no longer participate. And this is just part of our it's a part of our program to keep NCL kind of affordable for academic purposes. And so if you're interested in participating in NCL after you graduate, we have a couple of options. One is the Cyber Skyline Professional subscription, which isn't the same as NCL, but it gives you access to all these different challenges. And so you get to do that at any point in time. It's like a subscription service where you can go in whenever you want. Or if you want to actually bring that competitive experience into your workplace, we're more than happy to run corporate events for different companies. And so reach out to us if you want us to help run an event at your workplace.
Right, awesome. And Andrew asked a clarifier. Is it any job or specifically a job in cybersecurity?
It's specifically a job in cybersecurity. So if you are getting like a temporary job to hold you over while you still find a cyber job, that's perfectly fine. But we just want to make sure that, like, because the NCL is so academically focused, and we are putting out these ratings, it's kind of unfair if if you're a professional working in the cybersecurity industry, you're getting the academic discount, and now you're making it harder for those individuals to get their high marks on their scouting report because they're competing against pros. So it's specifically if you've got a job in cybersecurity, if you're working at Starbucks or something in the meantime, or what have you, that's perfectly fine to continue doing NCL.
Great, thank you. Next question is for Wolfshirtz. This is my first time doing anything NCL related. Is this the right place to be?
This very much is the right place to be. You're going to learn basically the quick digestible version, so that when you come in, you know what's going to be where. You're going to know how to register. So if you want to learn more skills, Franz is doing the demos, and we also are going to have various other live shows talking about whether it be skills or just talking about things that deal with the game.
Meredith, do you want to jump into the different resources that we provide? I think we have something new to show people as well.
Yeah, sure. So first, the first thing I'm going to send in the chat is just our high-level link to Crowdcast. Right there, crowdcast.io/NCL. That is where all of our previous trainings and NCL live shows are viewable. Every one of these is automatically recorded by Crowdcast. For the summer series, wonderfully hosted by Franz, he went through, I believe you hit 6 categories so far?
Ooh, hard to remember. We've been through a lot, right? So we did log analysis, network traffic analysis. I think scanning is coming up. We did Wi-Fi. We did some web. There's a bunch of different things that we covered already.
Yeah, web, password cracking. So it looks like you've covered 5 or 6 of the categories, but everything previous is there. An Intro to Python hosted by Wolfshirtz is up there as well, as are our previous seasons worth of training, and any pairings that we've done with other cybersecurity companies where we've done AMAs. Next important resource. What order do we want to do this in?
I think the YouTube would be next. So if you want a different format than Crowdcast, Crowdcast is where we do all of the events live. We will also re-upload all of the videos to YouTube. And so if you want to subscribe that way, if that's your primary way of getting videos, you can do that as well. And I see someone asking, when are the next live shows? We typically do live shows on Thursdays. We also, it depends on kind of like the schedule of the team. Sometimes we do them on Tuesdays. The next live show that we have planned is going to be next Thursday, so on September the 9th. And I can actually pull what topic we will have for that. But yeah, just give me a second, and then Meredith, if you want to move on to what's your next resource?
Yeah, my next resource is our wonderful updated FAQ page on the NCL website, and I will drop that link in the chat. Follows a very interesting format similar to the previous NCL links /FAQ. And these are where, if you have any general questions that you believe would be a common question, frequently asked questions, there's been a lot of work done on this page to flesh this out. If you have a question that doesn't exist, you can always submit an email to the submit an email to the email found at the bottom of the page, and we will get your question answered and more likely than not added to the FAQ page as well. That being said, during the games, the best way to get a question answered relating to the games is to submit a ticket. And after the games, the best way to get a question answered, especially if it was about a challenge, was in the Slack in the no answers only methodologies channel.
I'll post a link to the Slack. So once you have registered for NCL, if you go to that link, it will give you an invite to the Slack channel. And there you can find all the other NCL players who will provide support and advice like in between the games. If you're like trying to figure out how do I use a tool, like trying to find resources about a specific topic, that's a great place to go. And then like Meredith mentioned, after the games, we have discussions about the questions in the games. And so if there's something stumping you and you want to find out how to do it, then that's the place to go to get the answer. And then obviously, if you want very quick response for any questions you have about the games, if you're like confused about like wording on a question, open a support ticket. If you send an email, it's going to give you a slower response. If you message one of the admins on Slack, it's harder for us to keep track of those, right? So please open a support ticket because that's the most reliable way and the quickest way that you'll get a response.
All right. Next resource is our new blog website. This is hosted on Cyber Skyline. This is going to become our wonderful treasure trove of information. You can see it's trove.cyberskyline.com. We are in the process of migrating old blogs there. New blogs will be written and posted directly there. This will cover various categories, or well, all of the categories really in NCL, and various things that any member of the Players Committee wants to take a deep dive in, something that they're particularly passionate about. For example, you may see some blogs on numeration exploitation from Tristan. From me, you'll probably see some blogs about Splunk, password cracking, or penetration testing. And from the rest of our members of the Players Committee, you'll see a wealth of information. I believe those are all of the updated resources that we have to cover. And we can take a little break. We've got 2 questions. Terry asks, is there a plan to update the eligibility requirements on the FAQ with the statements made here that students are eligible to participate 1 year after graduation, providing that they're not in a cyber-related position?
Yes. I'll go and take a look at that right now, actually.
Thank you, Terry. All right. Thomas asks, so is this a replacement for CryptoKate? The CryptoKate site will still exist. CryptoKate has a lot of resources on the website. Not all of them relate to NCL. The Cyber Skyline Trove will strictly relate to NCL and the NCL competition.
I'll add as well that like we're trying to centralize all of our resources so that it's less confusing to access everything, and we have a lot more flexibility with the way that Trove is set up. And so right now, if you go through, actually, we have like a guide for the fundamentals of cybersecurity, or computer fundamentals for cybersecurity. So if you are completely new, that's a great place to get started because it teaches you all of the basics. Before we start getting into the hacking stuff, you need to understand like general like IT tech stuff, and that's a great place to go. And we'll also put together like curated resources stuff, curated resources such as like sequences for videos, sequences for guides. And so all the resources would be there because we don't want people jumping across all these different websites to find stuff. So yeah, that's where we're focusing a lot of energy and putting our new content.
All right. That being said, I believe we've made it through the entire agenda for this evening. Anybody who has any last questions, feel free to use the Ask a Question button or throw them into the chat and I'll mark them as a question. We do have 12 minutes left, or people can be released for free early. Maybe. All right, we're going to rapid fire questions at Tristan because it's going to be fun. Tristan, what's your favorite category?
I'll just say enumeration and exploitation because I really like doing reverse engineering, but I also really like web stuff.
What's your least favorite category?
Cryptography or password cracking.
What is your least favorite challenge?
To make or to do?
We'll go with yes.
What's your least favorite challenge from this upcoming season? Tell us exactly how it works.
Actually, no, send that to me in the DM. With the
I don't know if I have like a least favorite. I can probably think of some that have stumped me, but I actually like the ones that stump me.
Might have to take a pass on that one.
But can you think of a favorite? Either to create or to do.
Creating web app challenges is really fun.
What's your favorite web vulnerability?
I really like VM escapes.
From a web vulnerability?
JavaScript has VM, or like, I shouldn't necessarily, but like sandbox escapes for like web code. Or like, those are really fun to mess with.
Out of curiosity, do you also enjoy escaping Docker containers?
I haven't messed much with Docker vulns as much, like other than like knowing like Docker and like having the Docker socket mounted into Docker. I know like that vuln, but like I haven't messed with like too many other escapes.
I think I have an interesting challenge for you. All right. That being said, Terry asks, Franz, can you speak to some of the changes with Dan Manson and the new structure of NCL and Cyber Skyline?
Sure. So Dan Manson has really retired as the NCL commissioner. So we now have a new commissioner for NCL, David Zaitchik. So that's a pretty straightforward change. And with regards to the new structure of NCL and Cyber Skyline, so we've tried to simplify a lot of like the processes and things that we've been doing to run the games. And so before there was kind of like a split responsibility in terms of what NCL Inc., the nonprofit, and Cyber Skyline Inc. Did to run the NCL competition. And now with the new structure, basically NCL Inc. Still provides an advisory board for the games, but all the operational responsibilities of like running the games, doing marketing, doing all the support That's all being managed by Cyber Skyline. For the most part, it's kind of like this is all kind of like behind the scenes things. I don't think there's anything really different in terms of what this means for participants. But I suppose that like, you might be seeing a lot more like Cyber Skyline domains and Cyber Skyline contacts when you reach out regarding the competition. But the same old people who are part of NCL Inc. and part of the advisory board, they're still here. They're just not responsible for like day-to-day operations.
Garrett asks, I literally just got offered a job in the cybersecurity field, but I still want things like the gym. Does Cyber Skyline Pro provide similar training?
Yes, we have a lot of different challenges there. And if you want additional resources, like let us know what types of resources you want added in Pro, because we're always trying to figure out what resources students are and professionals are looking for in our offering.
All right, sorry, Franz. I'm just going to keep asking you questions now. Justin asks, which category did competitors struggle with the most during the 2021 spring season?
I don't know if this is specific to the spring season. I think this is common across every single season, but enumeration exploitation is always like the hardest one for people generally. I think because it's just like usually involves you looking at code or reverse engineering binaries, and those are just like much more advanced topics that a lot of people don't get to when they're starting off in cybersecurity. So yeah, I think that's the most challenging category for people.
Yeah, there is definitely an indent in a notebook for me from banging my head against every enumeration exploitation challenge. And while I love them, they hurt my brain. All right. Username that I cannot spell asks, which is better? Try Hack Me or Hack the Box? Which will prepare you better for NCL?
I don't know if I've done either of the two of them extensively enough to make a call on that, but I'll let the chat answer that question.
But to say, I've got a basic answer, but it really all comes down to what you are looking to get out of NCL. Hack the Box is heavily focused on boot and root, essentially. You're expected to go in knowing base and in some cases more advanced knowledge. It is difficult to do as a beginner to the field merely because to create an account you have to hack the website. That is by design. There are write-ups out there, but it is a very difficult competition or compilation of CTF challenges to get into. Try Hack Me is a bit more introductory, but once again, they do still expect a higher baseline for starting. They're both geared towards college graduates, while this is for students entering college and students in high school.
To sort of add in, if you want to know something that's actually like a decent NCL prep resource, there's something called a Pico CTF. It's originally like aimed at like high school students, but just kind of ignore that. If you're a beginner, do it. It's stuff that's gonna like teach you a lot of fundamentals.
What I've learned from our years being involved with NCL, it's that age is not a factor in people's skill level. Like we have seen middle school students, well, this is not NCL, this is from other events that we run. We've seen middle school students beat out college kids, and plenty of like high school students beat out pros. So it's really like everyone's on a different path in their journey. They have a different timeline. A beginner is a beginner, whatever age you are. And so don't feel kind of like don't feel like you're tied down to, oh, this is like a high school beginner level experience. Like that's, if you're a beginner, go through it and learn new things, because you have to start somewhere.
All right. It looks like that was the last question for the evening, and we are right at the hour. Does anybody have any final words of wisdom they'd like to impart for this evening? Apart from please register.
Definitely, please register. For all of the new players out there, keep in mind that NCL is not like a standardized test. I think that like one of the worst ways that you could approach NCL uh is like feel discouraged if you don't get everything, because you're not expected to get everything. NCL is about really the breadth of things that are out there, both in terms of different disciplines in cybersecurity and different levels of experience. And so a lot of beginners will come in and get like a 30 to a 50% in terms of like raw score. And that's perfectly fine, because if you're a beginner, you're getting the beginner challenges and you're solving them. That's great. And the idea is that you come back season after season and you get your 30 to a 50, you get your 50 to a 60, and your 60 to a 70. And NCL is there to help you grow as you go through your career. So please, as a beginner, don't come in expecting to get like a good letter grade, because NCL is not about a letter grade. NCL is about the journey to becoming a professional. And if you're a beginner, the reality is you're a beginner. You're going to get a third of the content, because like a third of the content is for beginners. That's how it works. So the way I would approach it is take a look at what you can do and then understand what are the things that you need to learn to get to 40, 50%, 60%, whatever it is. Take that as a challenge for yourself in between seasons to learn that. Ask your faculty members at school, what resources do you have that I can use to learn these things? What classes can I take to help me learn these things? Really use NCL as a way to leverage your learning experience. And don't take it as the end all be all. Like NCL is part of the journey, and don't be discouraged if you get like a low raw value, because that's the way that it's designed. We don't want to have challenges that everyone can do, because then there's no room to grow. And so NCL is about growth. Focus on the growth rather than your raw score. So Meredith, do you have anything?
Mine is not nearly as good at that. It's make sure you take breaks and drink water.
No, that's actually very good. And sleep. Sleep. Yeah.
Outside of NCL, like in general, do that.
Yeah, we see people go really crazy with NCL, and like a lot of times people are just banging their heads against the wall, and the best way to get around it is to take a look at it later and not just keep looking at the same problem for hours on end.
The only things I have to say are like, even the people who are professionals aren't perfect, so it's still a learning process for them as well. So like for those of you who have been around a while and you're seasoned pros, there are always going to be new things to learn. Either a new tool, a new way of doing things, or even a new category that's going to keep you busy. So if you're an NCL pro who's been at this for a while since high school and you're still a student, please sign up as a regular student. If you're a wonderful seasoned pro who's actually out in the pro land now, workforce, then please sign up for Cyber Skyline Pro. But that's all I've got.
One last note here, Terry is actually making a very good point. We probably should have gone over this as a very important tip and trick here. The ranking for NCL is points, accuracy, time of last correct submission. And it's points first, and then if there's a tie on points, then it's accuracy. If you're a beginner, you almost always want to sacrifice your accuracy for points. Only at like the very high end of competition is like the tiebreaker on points really a factor when you go to accuracy. And so like we give you for individual game, we give you on average 5 attempts per question. In a team game, we give you on average 10 attempts per question. And so like if you have educated guesses, make those educated guesses. Don't like waste all your time like being unsure. If you're a beginner, like go and make that submission and keep moving. It's better to take the hit on accuracy and get more stuff done, especially as a beginner. Now, if you're a lot more advanced, those are completely different tactics, because at that point accuracy really does matter. But speaking just from a beginner level, like just make an attempt, see if it works. Sometimes you might learn something. If you have like 3 different options and you can guess the right answer, you can actually go back and reverse engineer why was your answer the correct answer. And that's a perfectly valid strategy. And if you can learn that way, that's that's great.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. To answer the question in the chat, cybersecurity competitions often have fun swag or gifts at the end, and some of the in-person ones that used to exist had fun shirts. And this was a wonderful gift from my friends at Palo Alto, because I spend my days breaking their firewalls.
If you want a fun Cyber Skyline shirt and you sign up for professional, you will get one as part of a new subscription. So Cyber Skyline Pro, especially if you're a student, it's like a great deal because it includes your NCL registration for the year, and you get a free T-shirt when you sign up for the first time. So if you're interested,
super soft.
And the shirts are super soft. That's always a plus. All right.
Thank you so much, everyone. We will see you September 6th.
All right. Take care. Enjoy the gym. Sign up now.